Hey everyone, it's Stephanie here, and today I have a video to share using the Faber-Castell Big Brush stamping markers as well as the metallic silver gelato. These are new markers to me. I've used them a couple times just quickly on direct coloring onto the stamp and then stamping, but I hadn't actually ever colored with them before now. So I got a new set recently. It's a 15 set from Simon Says Stamp, and then I got a couple of extra markers that didn't come in the set, which the lighter turquoise color I'm going to use in this video is one of them. So what I'm going to do is I'm taking this Hero Arts clear stamp set. This flower image is probably my all-time favorite flower stamp ever. I just love the layers on it and the shape of it. It's just a great flower to cut into pieces and layer on top of one another. So as you can see, I showed you the first stamped piece. I already did that piece and did all the coloring. And I'm just going to go ahead and do two more flowers that I'm going to use for layering to make an actual card with the colored stamp piece that I already did. So I want to do the stamp I want it to be embossed, but I don't like black embossing powder. I find it super messy, and I just think that using VersaFine Black Onyx ink with clear embossing powder gives much nicer results, and the images look so much more crisp. So the main thing you just want to remember when doing embossing this way is to have your embossing powder ready to go to sprinkle right onto your image once you've stamped it, just because you don't want that ink to dry. VersaFine generally takes a little bit longer to dry because it's a pigment ink, but you don't want it to get too dried out or it won't hold that embossing powder. So I'm just going ahead and stamping two of these flowers and then just putting that clear embossing powder on it. And then I'm going to heat set that, and then once I have that heat set and everything set and ready to go, then we're going to do some coloring on them. And I'll show you my technique for how I was doing the coloring. So as you can see, as I'm heat embossing it, you can see where it's once the clear goes embossed, then it makes that black ink go shiny and looks exactly like black embossing powder. So now I have my markers. I'm going to be using the cobalt green and the light cobalt turquoise markers, and I'm using the lighter one first and just going to go over and completely color in that whole flower image. And I don't need to be super careful because I'm going to only be using the inside pieces of these flowers, and they're going to be cut out. So if I go out of the lines, it doesn't really matter. So once I get this piece fully covered, I'm going to go ahead and use the darker color of the marker, and I'm going to start at the very center of the flower just on the outside of the circle area in the middle, and I'm going to do a quick little scribble, and I'm going to use my finger and just kind of pull it outwards towards the outside of the flower. And this works because this ink stays wet for a little bit longer than normal, and so that allows you to blend it right into the other color underneath. Love these already. Just the blending is so great. So you can kind of see there it didn't fully focus, but how well that those blended out into the lighter color of the turquoise. And then I'm just going to take that same marker and go around and color in all of the little edge pieces that are defined by the black lines there. Now on the original piece that's going to go on the card, the longer strip, I also did the outer flower edges, but because I'm not going to use this whole flower, I didn't waste the time to do that. And then I decided that I wanted the centers a little bit darker, so I just went ahead and went over it one more time and then just used my finger and pulled it out and blended that ink in together again. So as you can see there, I had the outside edges colored like I said, but didn't need to worry about doing it for this one. So for the center, I'm just going to use the gray marker and completely color in that center. And then I just put a tiny dot of the black in the center, and then once again I'm just going to use my finger to blend that out. I just wanted to have the very, very center completely dark, but I didn't want to completely cover that whole inside with the black marker. And then for just a little bit more fun and dimension to the flower, I just took the metallic silver gelato and just scribbled a tiny bit there in the center, and then using my finger, I'm just going to work that around and give that a nice metallic sheen on the inside of that flower. So it looks really cool in real life. And then, as much as I liked the flower, I still didn't think it was completely finished. So I'm going to take the white pen. It's just called the White Artist Pen, and I'm going to go into the center and just slightly dot those little dots on it. And then I thought, well, if I'm going to do that, I might as well keep going and put some dots right on all of the little black lines that are coming out from the center. So you just want to be light. You don't want to go too heavy or the dots will end up really large. And I just kind of traced a few of the different lines that are coming out from the center. I didn't do all of them because I didn't want it to be nothing but dots, but I just did enough just to give it a nice little bit of a definition. And it looks so great against the black or the white background with those white dots in the flower. It just gives it so much more character and dimension. So now I finished all the coloring, and I just went ahead and cut out the middle piece of the flower, and then I cut out the smaller piece that's going to be the very top of my flower. And now I'm going to go ahead and create a card with these stamp pieces. So I have Simon Says Stamp wood grain cardstock. I like using that for a card base when I'm just doing a simple card design, just because it adds a nice bit of texture. And then I'm also going to use some steel gray cardstock from My Favorite Things and a piece of Lifestyle Crafts Shape and Tape in the gray. This stuff is addicting, and I have it in every color now, and I seem to want to use it on every card. It's just like washi tape, but you get full sheets of it, so you just get a bigger area to work with if you want to. So now I'm just going to go ahead and assemble the card. So I'm just placing the stamped flowered piece onto the gray cardstock. I have it cut just slightly larger than the stamped piece, just so I have a little bit of a defining border on either side of it for when I place it against the white card base. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that Lifestyle Craft strip and I'm going to lay it to the right side of the card underneath where I'm going to adhere the stamped piece, just so that a nice small piece of it can kind of be seen and just give a little bit more character to that side of the card. And the reason that I wanted to have the shape and tape on the right side is because when you see, once I adhere this together and I put the flower pieces on top of the existing flower there on the card, the flower is actually bigger than the space that it's stamped on, so when I layer everything, it's going to overlap a tiny bit off of that one edge. So I just liked having the little bit of stripe shape and tape there for some balance, just to kind of give it something else on that side as well. So I'm just using my grid lines here and lining that up straight, and then I'm going to go ahead and trim off the top and the bottom edges of that stamped piece since it was way longer than I needed. And now I've already pre-stamped a sentiment. I use the Avery L handwritten notes, I think it's called. This is a great new sentiment set that has a lot of possibility with the different ways you can arrange the sentiments. But I just chose just to simply use the best wishes, and I adhered that directly onto the card. And now I'm just going to adhere those stamped pieces of the flower that I cut separately. That first one that I put on has foam adhesive on it, and then I'm also going to put a piece of foam adhesive directly on this smaller flower too. Then when it's completely finished, the flower ends up being a 3-layer flower, and it just looks really great in real life when you have it in front of you there with all the 3 layers. And it just gives that flower so much more dimension than just it being on its own. And then I just lightly rolled up the edges of the flowers a tiny bit just to give them a little bit more detail, and then I'm just going to go ahead and round the corners of the card with the 1/4 inch side of the corner chomper. And then to finish it off, just because I thought it needed something a little bit more, I'm just going to go ahead and take some of these little pearls and just scatter a couple of them on the front of the card base there. And then once I have those where I want them, then the card is complete. And you have this great fun stamped panel with this great dimensional flower with a lot of great shading and detail on it. So thanks so much for watching, and I'll see you next time.